Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I am Aureo.
And I'm Irvin Cakeman. And today we actually have two guests for the price of one, which is very exciting. So, welcome to both of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So, I guess we will do intros one by one. So, first up is Josh Cook. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Irvin. It took you 10 episodes to get me on here, and I'm upset about it.
Well, I'm just saying you could have asked to be on it like our other hosts did.
It's as if I asked you whenever I knew you were making a podcast. I asked before episode 1.
Touche.
You're unbelievable.
And we got you here, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm complaining for a bunch of nothing.
All right, well, before you get to any more of your complaints, which we'll be happy to put in our complaints department, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Josh Cook, civil engineer. My Hogwarts house is Gryffindor.
Rawr.
Yes.
I could fall into a Slytherin if someone really needed me to be, but I tell you, as I get older, I'm becoming more and more entrenched as a pure Gryffindor, like the hero of our series, Harry.
Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I know. Thank you, Aurelia. Irvin is blinded
and shaking his head in disappointment.
I understand. My journey to Potter is pretty funny. I think, seeing as like how deeply I have fallen into the series. But my wife begged me for years to watch the movies with her, and I would fall asleep and whatever. I finally made it all the way through them, and I thought Dumbledore really freaking sucked. I thought his character was one-dimensional. He was, I don't know. I didn't understand the hype that Dumbledore got from fans of the series and things like that. So I decided that I was just going to read the books to see what was going on. And Dumbledore's become, like, if he's not my favorite character, he's number 2. And I would say Harry and Dumbledore can kind of swap for me a lot, because I see a lot of myself in Harry. Well, I mean, I'm twice as old as Harry was now, but you know what I mean. I can relate to the things that Harry complains about or, sees in his life.
Like not being on podcasts, that type of
100%,
thing.
100%, yeah.
It's very relatable.
100%, yep. Harry's parents died. My parents are still alive, but I wasn't on a podcast episode before 10, and it's upsetting. So I'm sure, we can relate to the same. My favorite book, Irvin, you've asked me for my favorite book before. I wanted to give it in order from my favorite to my least favorite. Actually, we'll do it opposite. We'll do least favorite to favorite. Least favorite book, Prisoner of Azkaban, followed by Chamber of Secrets, Sorcerer's Stone, Goblet of Fire, and then the top 3. Number 3, Half-Blood Prince. Number 2, Order of the Phoenix. And then number 1, my favorite book is Deathly Hallows, because I am basic.
You are entitled to your wrong opinions like everybody else.
I don't often see Prisoner of Azkaban to be at the bottom of the
list. I hate Prisoner. My God, let's just move it on. And I understand. I'm saying that with Order as number 2. I understand. I am hypocritical. I cannot stand Prisoner.
Well, your top 2 are my bottom 2, so
that makes sense.
Clearly, we just won't be seeing eye to eye today.
Was this a lot of what you said, Josh? I was like, yep, I relate. So we'll just make a team here, and he can be in his own team.
Fine. Gryffindors with 2 parents and bad taste in books. Fine, be your team.
Well, it's very nice to have you on. Sorry it took us 10 episodes, but I'm sure it will be a blast today. Our second guest today is also our Patreon what's the best word? The person who's been buying us drinks at the pub for the past couple of episodes. Welcome, Sam.
Hello. Glad to be on here.
Yay. We're so happy to have you on.
So, aside from being an awesome supporter of this podcast and making sure we're all well hydrated,
of course.
What's your story? What's your journey to Potter? What's your Hogwarts house? That sort of stuff.
I'm Sam. I work in post-production in New York City, and my journey to Harry Potter was in 6th grade. My teacher read us the 3rd book, and I instantly fell in love. And then about a week after she finished the 3rd book, I ended up in the hospital for a week, and my parents bought me the first 3 books, and I read the 3rd one again because I loved it so much. And then I read 1, 2, 3 again, and then 3, 2, 1. And then when I got out of the hospital, the 4th book had just come out. And I remember being at my grandparents' place and reading the scene where Voldemort comes back. And I finished that scene, and I had to go to my aunt's house. In order to get to my aunt's house, you have to go through a graveyard.
Oh.
And it was just the most, chilling experience.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So that's my journey to Potter. And then I want to say
Through
the movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember if the movies came out before I finished the 4th book or after, but for the while there, I just had my images of what Harry, Ron, and Hermione look like, and they still, in my head, look like that. I never really put the actors or actresses in my head when I'm reading. My Hogwarts house, I used to say Hufflepuff, but as I've gotten older, I realize I'm more Slytherin, but I'd be in a Hufflepuff common room all the time, hanging out with all my Hufflepuff friends.
Hi.
Hi.
A Slitherpuff.
My favorite book for a while was Prisoner, but now that's my 3rd favorite book. My favorite is Goblet of Fire, and then Half-Blood Prince, and then Prisoner. And the rest kind of mix, but my least favorite is Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, see, Sam and my book tastes align perfectly.
Exactly.
This is why I needed her on the pod to balance out all this Gryffindor nonsense.
That's all right. We shall allow it.
My favorite character, it's always been Ginny, but the character that I constantly want to talk about or read more about or dive into them is James Potter.
Yes, I think James Potter is one of those characters that it's really hard to judge from how little we are actually seeing from an unbiased position.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which does not stop people judging the hell out of him.
Exactly.
Well, I guess we're a judgy fandom.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Well, welcome, and thank you for buying us drinks. Honestly, it means so much, especially since we are still early on our journey of launching this podcast. In case you haven't heard, this is number 10. We've only mentioned it a few times. So yay to us to make it to the double digits.
Yay!
Yay to everyone who's listening, who's spreading the word, who's supporting us like Sam is. It really, truly means a lot to us. So, today, for episode number 10, we've gathered to discuss the fathers of Harry Potter for the upcoming Father's Day. So, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, y'all.
Happy Father's Day.
And I can see we have some recommended reading materials that we will share on our website. One of them, and I believe, I'm assuming both of these have written by you, Irvin?
No. Actually, so the first one is by me. The second one's by Sophia.
Okay.
Who we wanted on this pod, but just scheduling happened, or rather didn't. So the first one is an article I actually wrote for Hypable back in the day. Called The Fallen Fathers of Goblet of Fire, about sort of this recurring theme throughout the series, throughout Goblet of Fire, where all the father figures just found themselves suddenly powerless in the 4th book, and sort of how that marks kind of a turning point in the series for a lot of characters. And then the other article is by Sophia over on MuggleNet, which is about Arthur Weasley, Harry's most underappreciated father figure, which is just a really good article about why Arthur is a fantastic father to Harry. Give both of those a read. And now, let us offer a toast to the comments on episode 7. So our 7th episode was all about the sevens in the Harry Potter series. It was very silly and very fun. So today we're going to raise our glass to commenter Snitched Gold 3075, who said, because we asked our commenters to find other sets of 7 in the series. So this commenter said, Harry has caught the snitch 7 times during Hogwarts Quidditch matches, which means there are 7 snitches out there that remember him by flesh memory. First is Sorcerer's Stone, match 1 versus Slytherin, where he caught it in the mouth. Second is Sorcerer's Stone, match 2 versus Hufflepuff, which was the unique point of view shift to Ron and Hermione as Harry catches the snitch. Third is Chamber of Secrets, match 1 versus Slytherin, the one with the rogue bludger. Fourth is Prisoner of Azkaban, match 2 versus Ravenclaw, where Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle attempt the prank of dressing up as a Dementor. Fifth is Prisoner of Azkaban, match 3 versus Slytherin, where Gryffindor finally won the House Cup. Sixth is Order of the Phoenix, match 1 versus Slytherin, after which Harry and the twins get banned by Umbridge. And last is Half-Blood Prince, match 1 versus Slytherin, which was the whole Felix Felicis thing where Harry slipped around the drink and all that. And I just thought this was a really fun way of looking at it, because there's more Quidditch matches than 7 in the series. So based on, like, qualifiers, you can definitely get to certain sets of 7. And I thought the 7 caught snitches was a really good find.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I've also noticed that Harry has caught the snitch once each against Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw, and 5 times against Slytherin. He has never failed to catch the snitch against Slytherin. He's
truly motivated when he plays against the snakes.
I mean, or Draco is just a really bad seeker.
Yeah. There's also that.
Like, love Draco. Like, he has a lot going for him, but he's not a good Quidditch player.
Do you think he could be like a good chaser or something, but he just wants to be sneaker to play against Harry? Show him up?
Yeah, probably. Well, also Seeker is like the one with all the glory,
yeah.
So of course, you know, Draco Malfoy would have to be Seeker.
Yeah, it'd be interesting in a world where he can't just buy himself to be part of the team, if he had to actually have, you know, been going through tryouts, if he would have A, made the cut, and B, if he would have played as Seeker.
Ah, interesting. It does remind me of the great comment Harry makes to Draco. It's like, pity you can't attach an extra arm to your broom, then he might catch the snitch for you.
Yeah.
Like, Harry doesn't often have comebacks for Draco, but when he does, like, he comes up with some zingers.
100%.
He's a sass master.
I mean, maybe it's also, if Draco wasn't playing against Harry, I mean, we don't see the other Slytherin games, maybe he's actually decent if he's not distracted by, you know, trying to do a prank show or, like, being more sassy than Harry during a Quidditch match. Like, if he was
distracted by...
Yes.
You know, Harry's rippling muscles and the wind in his hair, you know, depending which fanfic you read.
Those Quidditch muscles. Yes.
Exactly.
It is a really good find, and we definitely learned in episode 7 it's all about the qualifiers.
Yeah, honestly, just, like, shout out to all our commenters, because, like, I've been having so much fun in the comments section, and especially for the 7s, where, like, everyone was like, all right, what sets of 7 can we come up with? How ridiculous can we get about this? It was great.
Yeah.
And so, with that, let's dive on in. So, fathers, I thought we could do a quick straw poll just to get where everyone's at before we dive in. So, quick response. Best father in the series aside from Arthur Weasley.
Which, can I just say, that's super hard because he's the only truly good father.
I mean, exactly. Like, you know, it's sort of, there'd be no point in asking this question, like, if we were allowed to say Arthur.
I say Amos.
I say Lucius.
I say Sirius Black in the 4th book.
Okay, I went with Xeno.
You know what? I didn't even remember that Xeno existed. It may be Xeno. Xeno may be number 2.
Yeah, okay, this episode is definitely lines in the sand drawn, me and the two of you.
I got you, Aureo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got you, Irvin.
Yeah. Okay. Worst father in the series.
See, that is difficult because there's so many of them.
Because they're so bad.
Yeah.
Can I go off board and go with Lupin?
Okay, sure.
I went with Barty Crouch Sr.
Oh.
I went with Marvolo Gaunt.
And I picked Vernon Dursley.
Marvolo is good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like...
It's interesting that Irvin, you said that Lucius was the best father, and Aureo said Vernon was the worst, because I think that they're the same.
They are pretty similar, yeah.
Not as similar as one might think.
Terrible people putting their own terrible beliefs upon their sons, while also praising them. Well, I guess Vernon does praise Dudley, and Lucius doesn't really praise Draco.
Yeah.
So it's more about how they spoiled their kids.
Yeah.
Because we see Lucius in Chamber of Secrets, right? In the Borg and Birch chapter.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't really spoil Draco the way Vernon does.
True.
Draco, like any 12-year-old enters a store and he's like, ooh, can I have that? Can I have that? I want this. I want that. And Lucius is like, no, we're not going to buy you all this junk on spur of the moment. Like, we're going to buy you the one thing that you actually want that's useful, the racing broom. Like, and I thought that was a, much better moment of parenting than Vernon's like, oh, well, obviously we'll get you 38 presents because who doesn't need a tortoise to throw through the roof?
But then isn't there literally a raid happening and Lucius is also maybe slightly motivated of maybe let's not get more dark stuff into the house when I'm just trying to get rid of it.
I don't think Lucius is fussed.
But the way that Lucius did, talk to Draco about the Hand of Glory tells a lot about the relationship of it's not. I don't care if you want it or not. I would hope that my son would be better than needing this Hand of Glory.
Well, yeah, it's for plunderers and thieves.
Yeah.
Who would want that for their son? Lucius is a stern father, but I don't think that makes him a bad father. Which, I've come across this every time the question of Lucius's parenting comes up, where it says a lot more about the commenters' values in parenting than it does about Lucius. Well, because we're all just going to bring our own biases to this.
Yeah, I understand, man. I'm coming in here as the dad of the group, quite literally. And
that's why we waited for episode 10 to have you.
Shut up.
I'll let you in on a secret.
I could do two of them. It's weird. But my oldest kid is 3 years old, and I am very hard on her. My view of Lucius as a dad has changed a lot because, I think I have better values than Lucius. But going back and reading the series as a dad that is hard on his kids, man. All he's trying to do is instill the values that he has on his son. And I think that that's commendable, regardless of how terrible your values are.
Yes, exactly. That's always my point, where I'm like, listen, I disagree with a lot of the values of a lot of people in the world, and I don't think that just because they instill their values in their kids that I disagree with makes them bad parents. I think sort of that's what you expect good parents to do, is to try to instill values in their kids, however shitty those values might be.
Being a bad person doesn't make you a bad parent.
Yeah.
Amen. Okay, glad we're on the same page about that.
And doesn't he kind of shut down Draco complaining about Hermione being better than him in Chamber?
No, that's actually one of his less admirable moments, because he's the one who essentially scolds Draco for being beaten in every test by Hermione. Not because Hermione was the only one who beat him. That's not what he's saying. It's that, you should be ashamed that a Muggle-born beat you in exams.
That could be an example of him just trying to make Draco a better student. But no, he's using it as, you lost to a Muggle-born.
Yes.
And lost to a Muggle-born and is complaining about it.
I mean, but I also think we need to give Lucius credit for, doing everything he can to help Draco succeed. Obviously, we're in Harry's point of view, so, when Lucius is buying Draco's way onto the Quidditch team, we're that sucks. But it's Lucius is trying to give his son every advantage in life and trying to, do all he can to make Draco happy. So, I mean, we may not like his methods, but, it's hard to argue that, he's doing what sort of any good parent would strive to do. And
is he wrong for trying to get Dumbledore removed the way Dumbledore treats Slytherins?
Well,
man.
He's wrong for trying to get Dumbledore removed, on account of Dumbledore's, pro-Muggle-born views.
Yes.
But, like, the question of whether Dumbledore's a good headmaster, yeah, Lucius isn't totally off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially if we, like, not even the Slytherins, I mean, clearly from a Malfoy perspective, that would be a high priority. But even from any concerned parent perspective, it's like, have you heard of any safety measurements at the school? Like, any?
Yeah.
Like, we're trusting our kids to the school for, I don't know, 9 months out of the year. Could you maybe look after them?
Yeah.
We hear from Hagrid how safe Hogwarts is, but he's a Gryffindor. So I wonder if, like, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Hufflepuff parents are like, oh, it's not that safe.
Well, it's safe for magical MacGuffins that you're trying to hide from Dark Lords.
True.
Like, no one ever said it's safe for children.
Yeah, and it's a good place if you wanted to build a little obstacle course for 11-year-olds.
Exactly. Wait, honestly, though, like, remember in the detention in the Forbidden Forest?
Yes.
When Draco's like, wait till my father hears about this? It's like, yeah, no, but actually, like, I don't think Lucius would have been best pleased when he found out about that detention.
There's so much wrong with that detention. Like, literally, a curfew exists, but then the detention starts at midnight? Like, what? And we're doing it in the one place you're not allowed to go to? Cool.
No, but detention rules supersede curfews, because most of Harry's detentions take place well after curfew.
Yeah, but then also, like, they don't start at midnight. They, like, start after dinner and then just run long. But, like, midnight feels like a late time for 11-year-olds.
I'm just saying, I think events that start at midnight is a perfectly normal thing.
Yeah, but you're not 11.
I think that was my perspective even at 11.
Okay. Can I just ask, Sam, because I did consider putting Barty Crouch Senior as well, and then eventually I mean, it is so hard because so many of them are really terrible. I went with Vernon because we see much more of Vernon being terrible, and we have a lot more sort of second-hand information about Barty Crouch Senior. Like, what made you pick him?
For me, the scene in the courthouse when I believe he says, "I have no son, or you're no son of mine." I can't remember the exact line.
Yeah.
Really stuck out to me, and then I got to wondering. Is there any possibility in the Wizarding world for rehabilitation? Like, the way Barty Crouch is acting, all shaking and everything, that could definitely be an act, but maybe he possibly could have, like, just joined them, just joined the Death Eaters, was still kind of on the verge of, you could still rehabilitate him, but his father's throwing him into prison, just pushed him more and more to the dark side.
That's a really good point about the rehabilitation. I don't think I've ever thought about it, but it's pretty much Azkaban for life for most of those people.
Yeah, it's for like petty crimes too. It's like, what happens when you have like a 1 month sentence? Do you still go to Azkaban? Like, I don't get that. And there's no rehabilitation, it seems, in the Wizarding world. And then when his father does help him escape, he just treats him like a prop, or like a not a prop, but like something in the way, something he has to worry about. He can't be his own person. He's under the Imperious Curse constantly. He has to be babysat by Winky. And his son can't really learn from his mistakes or become a better person. At that point, it might have been too late regardless. But I just think that Barty Crouch never truly loved his son and cared. I believe in the books, Barty Crouch Jr. mentions that he loved his mother, but there's just this, I don't know the right word for it, but almost like Barty Crouch Jr. is a nuisance even before the whole Death Eater stuff happened.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I was like, I would really like to know more about what made him turn to be a Death Eater, and like what was the relationship before that happened. Because I would agree, it can't have been a good relationship.
And I wonder if there was like the pressure of being perfect to make his father like him that eventually just gave up and went to the dark side. Because if we go based on how many OWLs he got, doesn't he have like 20?
Yeah, he got 12.
Yeah, so there could have been pressure to appease his father, and then eventually, because I do believe he's a Hufflepuff, he just, said, I've done everything I can, fell into the wrong crowd, and then his dad just tossed him aside.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to push back on the Azkaban bit, because Moody says, well, actually Crouch Jr. says, that the use of an unforgivable curse on another human being gets you a life sentence in Azkaban. So I think that, like, it's not that there's no rehabilitation in the wizarding world, because a lot of the smaller sentences are like, you know, oh, you go to Azkaban for like a month and then you get out. Which, like, I mean, they shouldn't go to Azkaban for a month, but like, you know, it's not just life sentences. But I think sort of, you know, getting caught using an unforgivable on a person, that's, you know, it's our equivalent of, like, you know, killing someone. So, like, yeah, sort of, if you murder someone, like, I think life sentences is kind of expected.
But could you get a life sentence but still try to have a rehabilitation so you can become a better person? Like prisoners, for example, in America, like give them jobs, you know, they can have education. Could there be a way in Azkaban that even though he goes to prison, he could still maybe kind of stray away from being an evil guy? Well,
I mean, yes, but yeah, I don't think they're really into rehabilitation in that sense in the wizarding world. And their prison, like, justice system, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Very true.
And also, all of their jobs require magic, and I'm sure you don't have a wand while you're in Azkaban.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to hear Josh, Lupin.
So I hold a lot against Lupin for leaving Tonks when she was pregnant. Now, I understand freaking out. I understand being scared. I understand all these things. But knowing who Lupin is, which I believe is someone that kind of just needs to get over it. He went through a lot of crap in his life, I understand. But the thing you hear about Lupin is that he is such a Woe-Is-Me character, and I just don't have time in my life for Woe-Is-Me characters. So whenever he does that, whenever he leaves Tonks, I'm extrapolating the father that I think Lupin would be. I think that he would have wonderful, great times. He would be a 10 out of 10 dad sometimes, or maybe most of the time. I don't know. But I think that he is going to continue throughout his whole life, unless he finds help or figures it out, which I don't think that he would. He's going to go through these times and he's going to put his own self-hate onto his son, and that makes you a bad dad. So I know I don't have canonical advice or things for that, because we never see him be a dad. I think, do we ever see Lupin in the same room with his son? I don't think so.
No.
So, yeah, Irvin, I'm sure, is shaking his head because Irvin is the canon king. But I'm looking at who Lupin is, or who we know Lupin to be in the books, and going, man, are you ever going to get out of your own way enough to be the parent that Teddy needs? And I think that he could. I think that he would for sometimes, but not all the time. And you have to be an all the time dad.
He's stuck in adolescence, like Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough with Lupin, right? Because, like, he didn't want to be a dad. Sort of like, you know, he wasn't into any of this. He didn't want any of it. So, like, I guess when you let yourself get peer pressured into a wife and a kid you don't want, like, this is what happens.
Well, it doesn't really matter if you wanted to be or didn't want to be.
I mean,
also true.
I mean, I know he's not Harry's dad, but he does sort of step into a father role with Harry. And,
yeah, for a minute.
Yeah.
And then bounces again.
Yeah. Pieces out, doesn't write to him.
Yeah, that's true. He's really only there in prisoner.
Lupin could be a great father for as long as you're in the same room with him.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's very true. Yep.
Like, honestly, for me, and, like, I get, like, story, needs and all that, but, like, why Lupin never reached out to Harry before Prisoner of Azkaban, like, I always thought that was so messed up.
Yep.
Like, even if, like, you can't before he goes to Hogwarts because, like, he doesn't know about magic and yada, yada, yada. Like, once Harry's off to Hogwarts, like, especially once Hagrid comes a knocking for, like, photos of, like, his parents at school, Like, that would be a cue being like, here's a photo. Also, give this letter to Harry. Tell him, like, I was friends with James.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I always thought, like, why didn't Lupin write to Harry after Prisoner? You know, like, he's the adult, he can send letters to him. But that's a good point that he could have written to Harry even before they actually met on the train, or he became a teacher.
Yeah.
I feel like after Prisoner, Lupin really defers to Sirius as the father figure. He's sort of like, you know, you're the godfather, you're the cool one, Harry likes you, so, like, I'm a peace out.
Yeah, and that's just silly.
Yeah. Harry can use two dads.
What that means is that because I have a dad, none of my uncles could ever talk to me. None of my uncles could give me advice. Like, it's just, and I think that Dumbledore would get from the fandom in general. He gets a lot of things of like, he is controlling all of these things. He probably told Lupin not to reach out to Harry. Screw that, man. Like, Lupin, you're an adult. Send a letter. I also don't think Dumbledore would explicitly tell Lupin to not talk to Harry.
No, that was all Lupin. Like, Dumbledore very much wants Harry's, like, emotional well-being, like, you know.
Well,
he does. Like, listen, Voldy Slayers who are, like, depressed and in their heads aren't effective.
Yep, you're right.
So, like, yeah, I think Dumbledore would, like, actively encourage, like, Lupin to reach out to him.
Well, and so my original thing of disagreement with you there is probably not true, because all of this shouldn't rely on Dumbledore. Like, my immediate thought was, if Dumbledore cared about Harry's well-being, mental well-being, would he have ignored him in Order of the Phoenix? But it's not Dumbledore's job to do all these things. Like, he has the order for a reason, and it is to do his bidding and to fight this war, whatever is required of that. Dumbledore doesn't have to. He's not Voldemort. He doesn't tell everyone what to do every second, you know, for the whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get very frustrated thinking about Lupin.
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of like him as a frustrating character, because, like, when we meet him in Prisoner, right, he's, like, such a great character. He's, like, you know, best teacher ever, like, we love him, he's cool, he's understanding. And then sort of, the more the books go on, and I guess also, like, the older we get and the less patience we have with, you know, his nonsense, it's not quite as rosy a view of him. Like, he is a very flawed and often frustrating character.
Which is true for most of the fathers.
Very true. So actually, while we're on Lupin, I kind of want to dive into this. So I think there's a lot in common between Lupin and Tom Riddle Sr., which I admittedly did not think until we started working on this podcast. And I was like, you know, actually, because, like, they're the two, like, really reluctant fathers we see, right? Like, most of the other fathers in the series, like, were pretty much down to have kids, like, I mean, as far as we know. Whereas, like, Lupin and Tom Riddle Sr., they were both like, nope, no kids, not for me, no thank you.
I'm not sure Tom Riddle Sr. said no kids for me. I think he said no kids with this woman who, like, roofied me, pretty much.
Well, I mean, and same exact thing with Lupin. You know, I'm sure Lupin would have been, well, okay, not happy, but more amenable to having kids with someone else, someone he actually was into and loved. But yeah, so of the two, Tom Riddle Sr. just left, not knowing about the kid. Lupin tried to leave fully knowing that he had a kid.
Do we know that when Merope stopped giving the love potion, was that before or after she became pregnant? Like, did Tom Riddle know she was pregnant and was just like, peace out, I don't care?
No.
Or did he not know?
I think it said that, Tom Riddle Sr. never knew about the kid.
Okay.
Like, I can find an exact quote for you, but I'm fairly confident in that.
I mean, regardless, whether he knew or not, he had every right to leave.
Yeah, like, I think sort of, you know, Merope, like, got pregnant, like, took off the love potion, and then Tom Riddle, like, immediately peaced out. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, interesting. So, the villagers guessed that Merope had lied to Tom Riddle, pretending she was going to have his baby, and that he had married her for this reason. Mm. So that's not him actually knowing about the baby, that's everyone assuming that, like, you know, he was taken in by a pregnancy.
And I always take the villager story, like, with a grain of salt, because knowing what happened to Tom Riddle Sr., like in my head, when the villagers describe him as rude and living with his parents, I see that more as like, maybe he's rude because he's suffering from PTSD. Maybe he's living in his parents' place because he doesn't trust himself to be away from them after what happened.
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm wrong. I take it all back. Because per Dumbledore, perhaps she thought he would stay for the baby's sake.
Yep.
If so, she was wrong on both accounts. He left her, never saw her again, and never troubled to discover what became of his son. Okay, so he did know there was a son. Okay, so that he and Lupin are even more alike.
Well, I mean, if you're being raped, would you want to have contact with the child of that?
No.
Lupin still chose to have sex.
Yeah.
True.
He could have wrapped it. He didn't.
100%, Sam. Like I've had a similar discussion to that with friends before, and it was like, fine, man. Like, if you didn't want to have a kid, because like Lupin talks about, look at me, my kind don't usually breed. I think that means he doesn't know what's going to happen with the kid. He doesn't know if the kid would be born as a werewolf or if not, or fully a wolf. Like his mind is racing. Okay, but man, like because I think that he loves I think that Lupin loved Tonks. I think that he's happy to be married or whatever. Yeah, I do.
Okay, wait.
I think that he was stopping. I think he was stopping himself from having a relationship with her because.
Okay, do you have anything in the text suggesting he was happy to be married? Because not a single line in Deathly Hallows seems to indicate that.
Okay, I mean, okay, I don't care. If he was worried about having the child, he could have continued to be married and just use birth control.
I mean, Lupin's, like, fatal flaw is that he's a people pleaser. So, like, when everyone wanted him to marry Tonks, even though he didn't want to, he did. Because, everyone wanted there to be more love in the world. And so...
I mean, they are... Oh, sorry.
And so I think, when Tonks and everyone was like, so, babies? He was like, well, no, I don't really want to, but fine, I guess, for you. Like, he can't ever say no to people. Because, he has his whole fear of rejection and loneliness and all that. I explains, does not excuse, like, just to be clear.
And they are going through a war, him and Tonks, right now. They're in the middle of it. So maybe they do have some nice moments, but when we see them, it's mostly, it's always Harry's point of view, and they're just busy with the Order and fighting this war. So from Harry's point of view, Lupin could come off always unhappy.
But Harry isn't that perceptive about emotions. So, like, if even Harry realizes that Lupin is never happy, like, it must be pretty damn near the surface. Anyway, so back to the Riddle and Lupin parallels. So I found it interesting that in the series, we see the two of them abandon their kids. The only mother who abandons a kid in the Potter series is Fridwulfa, like Hagrid's mom. So, like, basically, no human mother had ever abandoned a kid in the Potter series.
Would you consider them Merope? Because doesn't Dumbledore say she kind of gave up or something? Like, she could have stayed alive for her child?
I mean, that's different. Like, abandoned, I mean, like, went off to, like, live their fabulous life, like, without worry about the kid.
Okay.
So I think it's in keeping with the series' perspective on, like, mothers and fathers. Because basically, in the Potter series, like, mothers can do no wrong. Like, mothers are perfect, mothers are saintly, like, mother's love is the end-all, be-all. Fathers are complicated.
How much of that has to do with Joe?
Oh, all of it.
Everything.
Absolutely all of it. Yeah, I mean, like, Joe's relationship with her father is very complicated and, like, deteriorated as the series went on. Although, ironically, it hadn't deteriorated quite that far when she was working on Goblet of Fire, because Goblet of Fire is dedicated to him, even though that is the book where, like, we see all of these fathers behaving badly.
Interesting.
Like, literally, the book with Barty Crouch Sr. and with Voldemort using his father's bone to resurrect himself and all of that, that is the book Jo dedicated to her father. I'm like, damn.
Do you mean, was that a passive-aggressive, not-so-subtle hint?
I mean, hard to say. You know, sort of, we don't know the day-to-day of their relationship, so it could have either been a passive-aggressive hint, or it could have just been like, well, it's his turn in, like, the list of people to dedicate things to.
True.
But, like, either way, she clearly was not worried about, like, you know, being delicate about it.
But I always find the father figure is more fascinating than the mother characters, a lot of times.
I mean,
they're so complicated and flawed.
Honestly, same. Like, the messy ones are the fun ones.
Yeah.
So Barty Crouch Sr., you were talking about the expectations he set for his son, right?
Yeah.
So I actually thought it might be more that he was just absentee. Like, I don't think he was stern in sort of the way that, like, Lucius was stern, where, like, he's, like, on Draco to, like, get good grades and achieve something. Like, Crouch was just, like, you know, sort of off at work all the time, like, you know, the occasional date night, and sort of, like, you know, never really checked in, like, never bothered with his son.
Yeah, I think Moody's perspective on Barty Crouch Sr. is pretty on board about staying. You know, maybe he should have spent more nights at home rather than at the office.
Oh, that Sirius said that.
Sirius said that? Okay.
Yeah, because, I also thought, like, Sirius actually has a pretty decent read on people in Goblet of Fire, because Sirius is awesome in Goblet of Fire. I actually think, Lucius compares very favorably to Barty Crouch Sr., I think, because, right, also we were talking about, like, imparting values, and, like, very clearly, Barty Crouch Sr. failed to impart his values to his son. Because, again, Sirius says that Barty Crouch, like, he always hated the dark arts, like, you know, wanted nothing to do with them, and all of that, and, like, you know, look where his son ended up.
He could be those fathers that just financially support their children, but don't really care about their children, their emotional well-being, how they're growing up. They're just like, you have a house over your head. What more do you want from me?
Yeah.
When Junior could just want more from him.
He does strike me as the character who cares more about his career than his family. Because
100%.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that when his attempt to become minister failed, that didn't exactly make him more fun to be around as his family.
You know, I was getting ready to say, Crouch views his family as a way to help his career, because, you know, I mean, I can only speak for America, but, like, we've only ever had presidents that had families. You know, there's no, like, single men being president or single people being president.
I think there was one.
But we don't hear anything about Fudge's family.
Yes, we do. He has a wife, because during Barty Crouch's deluded ramblings, he said that he and his wife were going with Mr. and Mrs. Fudge to the opera.
Yeah.
So there is a family. But also, just to push back on your earlier point, Crouch didn't fail to become minister until after the Barty Crouch Jr. debacle. Because he was tipped to be the Minister of Magic, and then this all blew up in his face.
Yes.
You're not pushing back on the point that I made. The point that I
no,
was
on
making.
Oreo's point.
Oh, okay, got it.
I'm gonna push back on everyone's points, okay? I can push back on lots of people at once. Thank you very much.
I'm used to this.
Yeah.
Same.
I just want to be Irvin's adversary. That's all I want.
I mean, if you ever want a good argument, just give me a holler. Like, you know.
I was going to say, I think Irvin thrives of those moments, so I think he will appreciate it.
Yeah.
I always wondered about Barty Crouch. I know that, you know, his wife's dying wishes, let's free our son, let's do this thing. But why does he then feel obligated to play this game for years? Like, he could have, you know, said yes, and then, you know, realize a month in, oh, this is actually super hard. I'm going to do something about this.
It's because he cared about his wife, right? He genuinely wanted to honor her last wish. Like, I think Junior said that, you know, he loved my mother as he had never loved me. So I think in his, like, sort of one redeeming aspect, that was him, like, genuinely trying to, like, do the right thing.
Yep. I mean, he could have genuinely loved his wife and not loved his kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to be a full-on senior defender here. What could he have done? Like, so you have Junior out of Azkaban, a Junior who is very clearly not up for being rehabilitated. Like, you know, Junior didn't come out being like, I've seen the error of my ways. So, like, you know, you've snuck this, like, guy out of jail who very much, like, wants to, like, resurrect Dark Lords and kill people. And it was, like, an enormous crime to do so, but you promised your wife. Like, once Crouch Sr. had landed himself in that position, what could he have done differently?
I don't know. Everything
He's
points
what he
back
sowed.
to everyone going back to Azkaban. That's the problem.
Yeah. I guess aside from fleeing the continent and moving very far away and actually starting over.
Yeah.
And if he said, and I know he was not as high up as he used to be in the Ministry, but if he goes to Azkaban and says, here's my son, I snuck him out, or here's my son, like, whatever, like, what's going to happen to him and his career?
Like, it'll be ruined, and his career is all he has already. At this point.
Yeah.
Well, and a son, but, like, we're not counting that.
I mean, I count him as a bad father before Azkaban, but after Azkaban, I mean, I don't know what he could have done differently.
Because, yeah, I think sort of that ship had sailed. You know, like you were talking, Sam, earlier about how, like, you know, Junior could have just, like, you know, been a young kid who fell in with the wrong crowd. Like, my read on the trial in the Pensieve is that, like, it was 100% an act. Like, I think by that point, Junior had gone, like, full-on villain. Like, you know, I don't think there was any saving him at that point.
Very possible.
I'm still sad that we only get to see him for 1 year, because he seems like...
I know.
He seems like such a better villain than Voldemort at times.
He's a better teacher.
If Barty Crouch Jr. survives, Voldemort wins. I don't...
if Barty Crouch Jr. survives, Barty Crouch Jr. wins.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
He'll be like, move over, Snake Boy. This is my show now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. He had to die because he was too formidable a villain. But, like, oh, he's so badass. Barty Crouch Sr., absolutely terrible. All right, who is up next? I guess if we're going through all the worst fathers, we can do mine next. Marvolo Gaunt.
Yay.
Is just the worst.
Yeah,
I mean,
is the worst.
Yeah.
If anyone can play devil's advocate for him, I will be so impressed.
Let me see. I mean, he's doing a lot of the same things that we believe Lucius to be doing. I mean, trying to keep everybody on the on a path, not a good path, but a path nonetheless. What other devil advocate things could I say about a terrible, terrible thing?
He seems to like one of his kids.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's grading on a curve, though. You know, really hates Merope, but is like on a scale of 1 to 10, Merope's a 0, and then the son is Morphin is a 4. So if you grade it on a curve, then yeah, he does seem to like.
Yeah. Right, because Dumbledore has that great line about him, about Slytherin's locket and the ring, and he's like, you know, the family heirlooms that he prized as much as his son, and rather more than his daughter.
Now I tell you, the only devil's advocate thing that I think would hold any water is that the Gaunts at this point seem to be so inbred that Marvolo could literally have a mental disorder. I mean, we know he has, you know, whatever, but like he could be deficient.
Oh yeah, he cray. Like, no doubt about it.
If you go back and you blame it on the inbreeding of purebloods, maybe you could give him some credit there. I don't know. I'm just trying to make it here.
Yeah, I feel like the inbreeding at best explains, still doesn't excuse.
Hey, I'm just trying to make content, Irvin.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like Marvolo is the only one that we see like being explicitly abusive to his kid, right? There are a few fathers that like it's implied, it's heavily hinted at. Marvolo, we like straight up see him like strangling his daughter.
Yeah,
and like again, the living situation, like, you know, the gaunt shack where, like, Merope doesn't even have her own room, where, like, they have magic. Like, they can make a room for Merope, so just, like, oh my god, it's so bad.
I want to just qualify to say he's the only one we're seeing physical abusive, because I think the person we just talked about, you could also argue that he's abusive, maybe just not physically, but he's still, you know, distant. He keeps his son after Azkaban and under spells and stuff like that.
I mean, but being distant isn't abusive. Like, you know, Crouch Jr. is negligent, sure, but, like, I don't think we ever see him being abusive, again, until he has, like, you know, an evil, you know, escaped convict on his hands.
We also just generally don't see much of him, but Vernon is very much abusive.
To Harry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fair. All right, Marvolo's the one we see being abusive towards his child.
Okay.
There. Again, all about the qualifiers.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess Vernon, we see him, I mean, not be a good dad, but attempt to be a good dad to Dudley. Yeah. Whereas, like, Marvolo, like, yeah, the fact that he is not, like, actively horrible to Morphin is, like, the closest we can get to a redemptive thing. Yeah, like, I think maybe that's why I think Marvolo's the worst. It's just because there's nothing redemptive about him. Yeah. Like, other people can do things that are just as bad, but, like, Marvolo never balances it out with anything.
Doesn't he accuse Merope of being a squib? Like, she can't do magic, and
yes,
clearly she can.
Yeah, which, like, he flings that, like, as an insult. Like, you know, maybe they won't mind, like, you know, taking a squib off my hands or whatever he says.
It's always been a little bit interesting to me that for that family to be the you know, be part of the villain origin story, we don't really know that much about them. We don't even know what they do. Like, do they just hang around and, I don't know, abuse muggles? Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, that's what Marvolo did when he got out of Azkaban, or Morphin. Marvolo, whatever.
Morphin, yeah.
When Morphin got out of Azkaban. I mean, he didn't have anything else around him, but he did just kind of stay in the house.
Well, because they clearly don't have careers, right? You know, Marvolo isn't putting on a tie and going to the ministry.
Could you imagine, though? A tie with lots of snakes on it.
Yeah, that's his post-Azkaban rehabilitation. He, you know, starts a government career.
And the fact is, like, isn't love potions supposed to be really hard to brew? So, because Harry doesn't learn until his 6th year. So the fact that Merope's able to do that, is she the smartest one of the family? Like, could she have gone far had she had the right upbringing?
Well, okay, smartest one of the family is not a high bar we're clearing here.
Yes. Do we know if she went to Hogwarts?
No. I think the implication is that none of them went to Hogwarts.
Okay.
So we don't know that Merope went for, like, the full-on, like, fancy pants love potion in Hortensia. She could have done, you know, a simpler, easier version. But yeah, like, she has talents as a witch, that's for sure.
I mean, considering for how long she was able to keep Tom under the spell, yeah. Even if it was an easier love potion, it would have, you know, she would have still had to constantly reapply it, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Marvolo was abusive enough to, like, impact her magic, like, that's the thing. Marvolo accomplishes what Vernon could only dream of. Vernon wants to beat the magic out of Harry. Marvolo pulls it off. Yeah, he is the bad dad to which other bad dads aspire.
Well, one bad dad, anyway.
Yeah.
No, that is a good point.
Okay, you know what? Let's just get this out of the way. Like, on the abusive train, let's talk about Tobias Snape. And God, that is not a transition I want to make often.
Do we know if he's abusive? Because don't they say, isn't it like Snape sees his parents yelling at each other?
Yeah, it's like he seems angry. You know, I mean, abuse can come from anger, obviously. I don't know. I mean, he just seems angry. Like, he seems like a yeller. Doesn't find anything happy or joyful. He's just angry, and that's all his kid sees.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with him is we really don't see much of him. But I've always gotten the idea of just from the little glimpses that we get, that he's probably without a job, probably taking his frustrations out on his family, probably drinking too much. That's the picture in my head anyway. I know it's not gonna pass the canon police over there, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, the canon police has a quote. In Prisoner of Azkaban, sorry, not Prisoner of Azkaban, in Prince's Tale, the other P, when they're kids, Lily asks Snape, "How are things at your house?" And a little crease appeared between his eyes. "Fine," he said. "They're not arguing anymore?" "Oh yes, they're arguing. But it won't be that long and I'll be gone."
Yeah.
And then, "Doesn't your dad like magic?" "He doesn't like anything
he doesn't
much."
Like anything. That's what... That's the line I was thinking about.
Yeah. So, like, again, it's not explicitly abusive. Like, we don't actually know if he's, like, beating anyone up or anything. But, like, he clearly is not making a happy home and a good relationship with his family.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that they could have been arguing because Snape's mom kept it from him that he was that she was a witch until the letter from Hogwarts came?
I was wondering that too. Like, did he know when he married her that she was a witch?
My only thought is that that's probably not it, because I feel like we know if that was it. Like, Joe usually tells us when, like, sort of, mixed couples, like, go through that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Think McGonagall's parents, think Seamus Finnegan's parents.
Yeah. Doesn't Snape, like Severus Snape, know before the letter arrives that all about Hogwarts? So presumably...
Oh yes, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, for all parents, especially the ones where, their child has magic but they don't and they know nothing about it, that must be such a hard adjusting period of like,
yep.
Here's a letter, we're gonna take your child in like a couple of weeks to a boarding school in Scotland, and oh, by the way, magic exists, and you don't really get a say in any of this.
Yeah. So there's also like...
There could also be like some ineptitude, well, not ineptitude, but like an inadequacy felt in that situation where, you've been living your life as a human, and then now magic exists, and it's your wife, and it's your kid, and you're going, oh, they're like supernatural, and I am natural. There could certainly be some of that if it is thrust upon them. Now, there's, you could just be a better person and understand, and try to use it to your advantage, but, we all understand, I'm sure, the male ego in general.
Yeah. It's an odd power dynamic, right? Because if Eileen Prince is a witch, like, theoretically she has a lot of power over Tobias Snape, and yet he's sort of still the abusive or abusive adjacent one in the family. Because also there's a quote in Order of the Phoenix when Harry breaks into Snape's memories. A hook-nosed man was shouting at a cowering woman while a small dark-haired boy cried in the corner. Yeah. So first of all, we know that they've been fighting for like a long time. It's not like just, before he went to Hogwarts, but also like the fact that she was cowering before him, like, even though again, she has magic, like it's bad news bears. I think it's small wonder that Snape took his mother's, name for his pseudonym.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is a cool name to come up if you're like a 16-year-old.
I mean, that too. Maybe that's why Barty Crouch never changed his name, because his mother's maiden name was lame. Because, like, right, we see Snape and Voldemort being like, no, we're not taking our father's name. And, I mean, Crouch hates his dad as much as Voldemort does. He, commits patricide just like his hero did. But he keeps his name of Barty Crouch, and it was like, maybe, his mom's last name was just real bad.
Do you think if he changed his name, would it change on the Marauders map?
Maybe if you, like, legally changed it?
Yeah. Not that he knew about the map at all, but I'm just wondering.
Do we know of any women that are married showing up on the map, would it? I'm sure that it would update to their married name rather than maiden name. I don't think we ever see any.
My God, do we really not?
I don't think so.
We see very little adults to begin with. So.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of when they're camping and Harry's like looking at Ginny on the. Does anyone? But I mean, we don't know if any of the professors of Hogwarts are married anyway. Like we don't know. I mean, Professor Sprout. I'm guessing that's her maiden name. McGonagall, we know that.
Yeah. And Trelawney was divorced, but she refused to take her husband's name. That's why she divorced him. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just like ridiculous to me. Like we never see a married woman at Hogwarts. That's very silly.
A married woman at Hogwarts on the map. I mean, Mrs. Weasley is at Hogwarts in Goblet of Fire, but we don't see them on the map.
Oreo, what were we going to say?
I was just going to be, why do the women have to take the men's name? But I know the wizarding world is super old-fashioned, so...
Yeah. Well, also, like, the Muggle world was a bit old-fashioned. Like, you know, these women would have been getting married in, like, the 70s.
That is true.
And the 60s, so...
It's actually fun stories. My parents both kept their names, and it was just a year that they got married in 91 that law changed in Germany, that they could both keep their names.
Oh, wow.
So my dad has a different
Wait, there was a law
name.
saying you couldn't?
Yeah.
That's so... Wow.
Well, Germany is very conservative, so... There isn't anymore, so there's that. But yeah, it always confuses people that my dad has a different last name to me.
Yeah. Okay, so keeping on this train of terrible fathers, Vernon Dursley.
Oh, yes.
Oreo.
I mean, I honestly, there's so many you could pick. I truly ended up picking Vernon because we see so much of Vernon's terribleness. Even though, if you look back to the first book, and it is the first chapter, isn't it, where we get almost half a chapter out of his perspective.
Yeah.
And you could argue that, you know, we're seeing the world from his eyes. But even then, I'm like, you know, there's like 2 mentions of him being like, and he went to yell at his secretary. He's like, yeah, dude, like, what's wrong with you? So he's not a great person all around. And then I also think it's a very traditional family view that we have of the Dursleys, where, you know, he's the breadwinner. He's probably not around as much to actually spend time with his son. But so that is probably mostly Petunia spoiling and him just providing the money so she can spoil him. But he also seems to just be like fine with everything, and he's like, yeah, as long as Dudley goes to the school I went to, and as long as Dudley is like big and strong and, you know, can, you know, belittle other people and kick other people around. And then in particular we see his treatment of Harry, which, you know, other people who would have been like, hey, this nephew of mine just got orphaned and we're taking that person in. You could have been nicer to that person. You wouldn't have to, you know, shove them in a broom cupboard.
He really is like the first father or male figure Harry has in his life. I mean, like, post his parents' death.
Yeah, nowhere to go but up.
Unfortunately, it takes like 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, and then Harry just can't hold on to them. Like, most dangerous job in the world, being Harry Potter's father figure.
Wait, who's left? Arthur.
Yes, Arthur.
Yes.
Which, like, even he was meant to die when Jo was originally planning the series, and she just couldn't bring herself to do it.
And Harry gets to save his father-in-law.
Yeah.
I always forget that Arthur is Harry's father-in-law post-series.
Yeah. So Harry's just such a weird dynamic with all these people that, like, are only alive because he saved them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, most of his in-laws have been saved by Harry at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron, Ginny, Arthur, yeah, pretty much everybody.
Yep.
Okay, so stipulated that Vernon is just horrible to Harry. Vernon with Dudley. I believe that he means well with Dudley.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
He's ruining the future... Well, he's ruining the person of Dudley, but, I mean... You know, there's worse things you could do.
Yeah. I feel like also a lot of it is, like, the... You know... striving to be upper class of it all. Like, the contrast between Lucius and Vernon is, like, Vernon very much wants to be, you know, rich and wildly successful. Like, Lucius is already there, so he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah, a lot of where Vernon does this posturing of like, oh, we're in the zoo and everyone looks at Harry, so I'll better buy him some ice cream because I don't want people to look at, and oh, I got a new car, let's all stand around on the street so everyone else will also see I have a new car. So yeah.
Right.
Dudley's very much like his father as far as like demanding more presents, you know, being rude and being a bully. So Vernon I wonder if Dudley had that change where he realized Harry wasn't a waste of space earlier on. Would Vernon's feelings towards his son kind of shift in a way? Like, oh, you're no longer like me.
No, because he really much... He does seem to be in the, like, Dudley can do no wrong camp. So, you know, sort of, unless Dudley, you know, began following Dark Lords or something, I think Vernon would just be like, well, I mean, that's an odd thing for my son to do, but okay. Because, like, I think he sort of thinks that, like, being upper class means, like, you never have to say no to your child. You get them anything they want for them to be happy.
Yep.
Which, like...
Yeah.
Also isn't great.
Yeah, I'm still trying to... So I'm trying to view everything through the lens of what would the child be as an adult? Because I think that's what makes a good parent, no matter, you know, mother, father, stepfather, what, you know, whatever, is what kind of person are they going to be when they grow up? And I think Dudley's going to suck, but not like the worst. Like, he's just going to be insufferable. He's going to be the person that you know that has never been told no and thinks that they deserve the world. And I don't think he's going to be a hard worker. But, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. He's ruining his kid, but there's much worse ways to ruin a kid.
Well, he also never truly shows that much, you know, emotional affection to his son. Like, most of what he does is throw money at him. It's like,
I don't know. He encourages Dudley whenever they talk about like boxing or whatever. I'm pretty sure you hear Vernon say, like, give him the old 1-2. Well, that's about. I mean, yeah, like
he's proud of Dudley and tells him so often. Like, yeah. I think he's emotionally supportive of Dudley. Yeah,
me too.
But okay, so the bar is like, does your child survive to adulthood?
Well, in that case, Amos Diggory is failing quite a lot.
That's the thing. Amos Diggory, worst father in the series, couldn't even get his son to age 18. Wow.
Well, he did get him to 17, which is adulthood in the wizarding world, so I guess technically. All right. On a technicality, Amos Diggory gets out of it. Anyway, I think Dudley will become a much better adult human once he, you know, gets the love of Cho Chang and she, like, sets him straight. I mean, it's hard with Dudley as well because Dudley had Dementors happen to him, which changed Dudley, and not so much because his parents' views changed or anything. It is literally, you know, something magical happened to him. Not something fun, but it made him, review himself a little bit and, you know, at least start on maybe a longer, maybe a really short journey, we don't know, of changing himself to be a slightly nicer person.
Yeah.
But without the Dementors, I don't think Dudley would have changed that much.
Agreed.
Yep. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Vernon does feel a little bit like the non-magical counterpart to Amos Diggory about, look at my son, isn't he great?
Yeah, you're right.
That's true, because Amos is the worst. I hate him.
Okay, but Aureo, the only little pushback I want to give there is, but maybe this says more about Dudley versus Cedric than Vernon and nature nurture kind of stuff, because like at the point in time that we see Cedric and Dudley, even I understand there's a couple of years apart, I am on board with Vernon and Amos being counterparts here. But Cedric is so much more grounded than Dudley. Now that may be the mother deal too. We don't know enough about Cedric's mom. We see her right before the maze, I guess, but I don't. Irvin, do we hear her say anything, or is she just like?
She refuses the money, but I think that's all
after.
about it.
That's after. I don't.
Yeah.
Her kid just died. I don't care about that.
But I believe that's literally the only time she speaks. So
yeah,
it's the only time she speaks. She usually is sort of like calming down Amos.
Yeah.
Like when Amos is like, "How dare you not, denounce Rita Skeeter?" And she's like, "Sweetie, come here. It's okay. It's okay. Stop picking fights with 14-year-olds."
Yeah. And maybe Cedric, it could be just closer to his mom and more like his mom, where it doesn't get caught up like Amos does. But Dudley is seeing it from both Petunia and Vernon.
Yeah.
So that helps out his spoiled streak, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we're doing nature versus nurture, and I think the books make a fairly strong case for nature winning out, then yeah, I think the nurture of Cedric's mom would offset Amos, whereas Draco and Dudley never stood a chance.
Yeah, and I mean just the personalities of Dudley and Cedric could also cause that offset. I mean, I've got two little girls that are very close that have been raised the same. One of them is very outgoing and kind of insane. We call her feral for a reason. The second kid is very grounded. She's very, I'm here, this is my space, I'm doing what I need to do, that's it. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, I guess, but I don't know, man. I can at least definitely see the similarity between Amos and Vernon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought of that before, but I like that comparison.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I don't know enough about Amos to know whether he is a bad father or whether he just falls into the, decent father, terrible person paradigm. Because, yeah, we don't see much of him interacting with Cedric.
Not bully, but doesn't he kind of, what's the word, egg on or Harry? About how, my son beat you.
I mean, he's razzing him. He's almost hazing, or I don't know, just trying to get a rise out of Harry.
A 14-year-old.
Out of a 14-year-old that's in an adult competition.
Yes. No, Amos Diggory's a dick.
Yeah.
No other way to put it.
I mean, isn't that also a little bit of, the only child syndrome of, the parents are only focusing on that one child and, you're getting all the attention and they need to tell everyone how great that one child is?
Not this only child. My mother always told me how I was a failure compared to everyone else.
And
So, no, I don't think that's an only child thing. Do all of y'all have siblings?
Yeah.
I do, but as some who has friends who are only children, yeah, their parents aren't pressuring them or not pressuring them, hyping them up like Amos does.
Yeah, I've definitely met some only children that, with that you can very much see the parents being their biggest fan. I'm like, yeah, okay.
All right, well, not a universal experience.
No, I know nothing ever is a universal experience, but I do think it's a little bit of a thing that happens more often with only children.
Well, also, wait, is it confirmed Cedric's an only child?
No.
No,
But would they mention a sibling?
No, but you would think that they would have that the sibling would have been at the family reception for Triwizard Tournament.
Touche.
Fleur's little sister is there.
Yeah, but Fleur's the only one with siblings out of the champions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's why I said that. Irvin asked if it was confirmed that Cedric was an only child. It's not confirmed, but it's implied because there's not a sibling at the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah, and I guess that's the same for Victor.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying they could have older siblings who are, working abroad or something.
Yeah. They could.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, I don't know, feels like it's a big enough deal that you would maybe take a couple of days of holiday to show up. You can literally travel, across countries very quickly in the wizarding world, so distance doesn't really seem to be, a reason not to show up, because it's not really the same measurement.
Sure. But counterpoint, these tasks all suck to watch.
That is
like,
true.
Yes.
I wouldn't travel across countries to fucking look at a maze when I can't see anything happening inside.
Look at these shrubs.
Right? Or a lake. We're just looking at a lake. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't have traveled down the block to watch some of the Triwizard Tournament.
The question is, do you know that beforehand? Or is it like, hey, this is a big deal, it's happening close by, your family member is participating?
They definitely don't know it beforehand.
Well, and they started so strong, too. They started so strong with the dragon. Like, everyone could see it, it was awesome, And then they're like, all right, we got you in here. This is what you expect.
Yeah, no, they definitely didn't know beforehand because no one would have shown up. I'm sorry, are you telling me that, the Slytherins would show up to look at a lake for 2 hours?
They should have had a Jumbotron that had cameras underneath the water so everyone could see what was happening.
Right?
I understood Dumbletron instead of Jumbotron, and I was like, I like that.
Hell yeah!
Dumbletron! Dumbletron.
Yeah.
A new invention by Dumbledore.
he gets the patented. I always sort of assumed that something like that was happening and it was just not, mentioned because Harry's busy doing the task. So what does he care about how people watch it? But yeah, we did definitely have no mention of any of that. So probably not.
Yeah, if they had it, other people would have talked about what they were thinking. Harry went
and the Merch Chieftainess has to tell Dumbledore what happened down there because he doesn't know.
Yeah,
the water's too murky. They would have to do infrared if they had cameras or whatever. Because the water's too murky.
And I get that, for the third task, you need it from a story perspective that no one knows what's happening, because that really pretty much sets up order. But
I'm just saying, if I had bought a package deal to go to all of the tasks, I'd been eating a lot of concessions.
Yup.
Well, maybe that's the strategy. Maybe, the Three Broomsticks pub had, some deal and, what's the shop with the sweets? I'm really blanking on the name.
Hell yeah. Honeydukes.
Honeydukes.
Yeah. Welcome to the third task of the Triwizard Tournament, brought to you by the Three Broomsticks.
Exactly. And they're like, well, we don't care if you don't see anything. It means you're buying more stuff from us, so...
Yeah, look at what you're eating.
Or butterbeer and fire whiskey.
The third task, they could have set it up so people watch. It's a maze, which means the top is open. Literally just set up, really high bleachers so they can look down at the maze.
That's what I was thinking, too, is they could have done that. But then they probably would have seen Moody casting spells on
Yes,
people.
no, then they see, Victor, casting the Cruciatus Curse. No, story-wise, you can't have that.
Isn't the maze just in the Quidditch pitch? And isn't, the Quidditch stands presumably fairly high up because it's a sport in the sky?
Yes, but apparently the mazes are also really tall and really narrow. So, if, you have a maze that's, 20 feet tall and, 3 feet across, unless you are literally, looking right down at it, you can't see much.
Yeah.
Hogwarts, hire us to design your next Triwizard Tournament. We will do a much better job.
I think it just shows that they are just lacking jobs like marketing and stuff like that in the wizarding world. Like, all they do is like, hey, we're like either working for the government or we're like selling stuff.
Yeah, where is the event planning business in the wizarding world?
Exactly.
Who would be the best event planner?
How do they do it with, like, weddings and stuff?
I mean, it all seems kind of done, like, by yourself. Like, we don't hear about a Weasley wedding planner or anything.
Also, the Weasleys don't have money, so I wouldn't assume they would, go out for a wedding planner. But, like...
touche.
I don't see Lucius having planned his own wedding.
Are you kidding? Lucius would be the biggest bridezilla. He would plan everything to the T.
I disagree.
No, are you kidding? Oh my god, they would have, like, peacocks, like, surrounding them. Like, there'd be, like, a peacock feather in Narcissa's bouquet. Like, Lucius would have perfectly tailored robes and everyone would match. Oh no, it would be fabulous. I want to go to a Malfoy wedding very much now.
Do you think Lucius planned Draco's wedding?
I think he certainly tried. Oh, and think of the dance numbers. I mean, okay, getting into a little Harry Potter sequel territory, but, like, Lucius's wedding dance wasn't something to remember. Sorry, okay, we got very far away from Amos Diggory.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of him.
I think I also just feel sorry for him, because he does lose his son.
It's very, like, ancient Greek tragedy, right? Like, if you're a dick, then you lose your son. Which, like, obviously, like, we don't really subscribe to the whole, like, sins of the father thing anymore. But, like, from a literary perspective, that very much makes sense. I
still don't like it for him. Like, he's very annoying from what we see, especially when it comes to his son. But we also see glimpses of him as, like, a colleague of Arthur's, where he does seem to be fairly, competent and, like, likable enough to work with.
Really? Like, the part where he's, like, being a dick to Winky and, like, being hella racist against elves and, like, trying to bully 14-year-olds who he think cast the Dark Mark?
Wait, when does Amos do that?
At the Quidditch World Cup. Like, Amos is the one who takes lead in, like, questioning the trio and Winky after the Dark Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... Did he say that Hermione... Oh, I think when Hermione says it, I'm pretty sure that Amos is the one that says that you know an awful lot about casting that spell.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's Amos.
I completely forgot he was there. In my head, it was only Barty Crouch.
Yeah, like he's the one who's, like, yelling at Winky, "You've been caught red-handed, elf!" Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do see that moment the other day when, or I think is it the day after or a couple of days after when, they're all busy cleaning up the mess and isn't it like Molly gives him like toast and stuff like that through like the fire call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he did seem somewhat competent.
So he likes toast. That is his most redeeming quality.
He also is actually trying to help, so...
He's not trying to help. He's trying to circumvent the law by getting one of his former colleagues out of trouble. Okay? It is blatant corruption.
Referring to Mad-Eye Moody?
Yes.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Sorry, I will hear nothing good about Amos Diggory. Like, I hate his guts.
I tried.
You did. You did. It was a valiant effort.
You can hate him, but you cannot call him a bad father because we don't know.
I'm just saying a good father would not humiliate his son in front of all his classmates.
Does Amos see it as humiliation?
No, he doesn't because he doesn't care how Cedric feels because he's the worst. Sorry, we're getting into Hagrid territory. Like, everything Amos does is the worst to me.
Yeah. What you're calling humiliating to Cedric is just a more pompous way of dropping your kid off at school, having them walk across the grass to go in there, and then rolling down your window and screaming, "I love you." All this stuff just to embarrass them. That's not.
I mean, I was thinking more like yelling at his classmates, being like, hey, kid, you suck at Quidditch, you.
Well, that's true. I think that's just going a little far.
Me going a little far in my disdain for a character? Surely you jest.
Moving on.
Moving on. Should we talk about a good dad?
That'd be all right. Let's do it.
Who's that?
James Potter seems great.
He
Yes.
is.
For all we know.
It seems like fatherhood suited him.
Yes.
And that is a compliment that I have received before that I have taken to heart. I love that fatherhood suits me, and I think that James is in that boat.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to do really well as a dad, and he also is very committed to it, right? Because my impression of him was that sort of once, like, you know, Lily was having the baby and all that, James was like, all right, I'm not going to go, like, gallivanting off on Order of the Phoenix missions. I'm going to, like, you know, be here with you and the baby and take care of that. And, like, for a Gryffindor like James, that is not an easy call. You know, I'm sure, you know, he wanted to be off fighting the good fight with all his friends. So, like, I give him a lot of credit for that.
Doesn't Lily mention a letter that James is kind of stir crazy, but he still stays put?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can say so many things about James, but him as a father, all I can say is what we see, he's a great dad.
Yeah.
I don't know how he would have been when Harry got older, if he'd been alive. Would he, I don't know how he could have been then, but what we do have in the books, he's good.
I mean, we do have the mention from Lupin where he says the founders would have liked to lure you away with the card, with the map. So he would have always been, I guess, a fun dad to a degree.
Yes.
Yes, I think he would have been very indulgent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that he would have quite spoiled Harry, but I definitely think that, like, you know, when James got letters from Dumbledore about, you know, Harry blowing up a toilet, he would have been like, that's my boy.
You know, as I interpolated what I thought Lupin would be as a father, doing the same with James, I think that he would have ended up being the best father because we see so much growth in him just from 15 to 21.
Exactly.
Yep.
He is not ashamed to grow. I think that his love for Lily would also empower him to be an even greater father and an even greater grower, I guess. I don't know. As a person.
Yeah. Well, and he doesn't, like, fall into the trap Barty Crouch does, where he, like, you know, loves Lily, like, beyond all else and, like, doesn't care about the kid. Like, he just sort of spreads it around, because he's a good dad.
Yay.
We made it. We did it. We found a good father.
We found a good one. The one who died in the first chapter.
The one that it was part of the reason why we have the book.
Yeah, there's this really great quote in Lily's letter, like Sam, what you were saying. James is getting a bit frustrated, shut up here. He tries not to show it, but I can tell. So, like, the fact that he's, like, so, like, you know, stir crazy, but he's still trying to, like, tamp it down and, like, be in a good mood for his family and everything, like, oh.
And I always wondered, we know James goes to the door without a wand, but I wondered if he did that because he assumed it was going to be one of his friends. Because
yes.
only people, So he's like, oh, I don't need my wand, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, he thought he was incredibly safe because he trusted his friends too much.
Yeah. That was his downfall, was trusting his friends.
Yep.
Which, like, as far as downfalls go, like, respect.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Aw. Way to go, James. We love James. Okay, the counterpart to James, Frank Longbottom, is a dad.
We don't know. He's a good or
Yeah, that's all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even my rambling devil's advocate can come up with anything for Longbottom.
Well, for all we know, his mom was the hype person in his life, because Augusta seems to be very much my son is the greatest.
Yes. Yeah, no, Augusta is very much the, like, you know, like, Vernon, Amos Diggory model, where she's like, my son, he's the best. yeah, you know it. He's the best. I imagine Neville's life would have been very different if Frank were around. How different do you think Neville would have turned out if he had his dad?
More confident, maybe, in the beginning?
Yeah, that was my first reaction too, but then we actually really do not know anything about his parents, so we don't know how they would have raised him.
He at least wouldn't have had to have lived under his dad's shadow from his grandma. That's the only thing, is that if there was a shadow cast, it would be by his dad himself, which is a little bit easier to deal with rather than, we can only assume that Neville and his grandmother have been going to St. Mungo since it happened. And so that's all he's ever known. And then hearing, all the great stories about his father, that is quite an umbrella to live under.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he still would have, heard the stories and received the pressure from Augusta.
Yes.
Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe if Augusta thought that, Frank and Alice were, keeping Neville in line, then she could have been, the doting grandmother who spoiled him.
I think what we see more with her is trying to keep the memory of her son alive.
Yeah.
And now Neville has to live on, has to keep the Longbottom name going anyway. And so it's just another thing of Augusta trying to keep Frank's memory alive.
Yeah, all right. Frank Longbottom. All right, while we're doing the quick fire ones, Reg Cattermole.
He's a person.
He's a dad whom we see in the series.
But not interact with his children.
Do we know where he was supposed to be during his wife's trial? Or where he...
I mean, supporting her, in the room holding her hand.
Okay.
Yeah, because somebody tells Ron, I guess, that they're surprised to see them there rather than with his wife.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can assume that he's, a good husband. That doesn't mean he's automatically also a good father, but I guess we could also assume that he's not the worst father.
Yeah. He has good values. He married a Muggle-born.
True. But yeah, that's about it.
He's a person.
He is a person.
He is also very fun to cosplay, I'm just saying. Because I always cosplay Reg Cattermole in the summer, because then you have to be soaking wet the whole time. So it's a way to stay nice and cool. Because, not a lot of Harry Potter characters lend themselves well to summer cosplays on account of, Scotland, heavy robes and all that. So Reg Cattermole's one of my go-tos.
You could do the swimming outfit of Victor Crumb.
Oh, I have worn that, every year since 2011. Yes, that is one of my signatures. It's especially fun at, pool parties at conventions. I'll always, show up as Victor Crumb as the shark.
Yeah.
It's great. I spent, $2 on, shark swimmies at Toys R Us, and I think I've gotten more use out of them than any costume I've ever worn.
Nice.
Okay, other quickfire. Monsieur Delacour. We see him and his kids, and we see them interacting. We get more of him as a dad than almost anyone else.
Yep, I'm changing my first answer of best dads to Delacour.
Okay, yeah. Monsieur Delacour, best dad.
That might be true.
Even better than Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, he raised 2 kids who seem happy and well-adjusted and, to like each other.
He's got a wife that seems to, want to be around him. Seems like a good dude.
Yeah. Well, she didn't marry him for his looks, so, gotta have a good personality.
That he does.
And, he gives Harry a birthday present, right? I think he does. I think he gives
a razor.
The enchanted razor.
Am I misremembering, or is he kind of like a jokester, or very laid back?
He does seem quite laid back.
Yeah,
okay.
I think he's quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, I thought that was, like, very classy of him, where, like, you know, he shows up, like, you know, meets this kid whom he's, like, you know, like, seen in passing once during the Triwizard Tournament, and shows up with birthday presents.
Oh.
Wait, no, sorry. No, I misremembered. Bill and Fleur gave him the enchanted razor, and Monsieur Delacour, like, offers him advice on it.
Oh, okay.
Still, very dad-like.
But no, there is a present. Harry got chocolates from the Delacours. Okay, so it's not like a fancy, like, you know, thought out present, but he still showed up with chocolates. So still a good man.
Can't show up with nothing, man.
Any man who shows up with chocolates, good man.
Are we redeeming Lupin now?
How can we even redeem? Nice. I see what you did there.
Yeah, he seems all right, Monsieur Delacour, from what we see. It'd be interesting to know how much of, you know, because we do see Fleur a little bit more, how much of her values and beliefs are from him, and how much of that, you know, how much was that parenting from him, or how much was it from her mother? Because we don't know what he does, do we? Like, where he works, or if he works, or...
I don't recall anything.
No, we know little. We know he's a very accommodating house guest, because everything the Weasleys do, he says, charmant.
Well, he is French, so...
Yes. Yeah, and what was it that, like, you know, they ushered them into the house with many, like, after yous, no please.
Yeah.
Like, just the interaction of the Weasleys and the Delacours, like, when the in-laws meet, is one of the funniest bits in the series. Like, I always crack up.
I think also the commentary on how laid back is a bit of a stereotypical commentary as well.
Yeah.
It's a bit of like, the French people, they're chill.
I mean, I thought it was more a commentary on just how high-strung Mrs. Weasley is.
Well, there's also that. But yeah. I mean, I can't blame her. Her, like, eldest son is getting married, and there's 100 million people living in her house, and she has so much to organize.
And a war happening.
Oh my god. Sorry, just my favorite line is, Madame Delacour is like, your husband has been telling us such amusing stories. Mr. Weasley gave a maniacal laugh. Mrs. Weasley threw him a look, upon which he became immediately silent and assumed an expression appropriate to the sickbed of a close friend.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, Mr. Delacour, pleasant, helpful, great dad. All about it.
Exactly.
Percival Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a character.
He did. I mean, he definitely, you know, went to the mat for his kid.
That's true.
You know, tried to get revenge for Ariana, ended up in Azkaban. Sucks to be him, basically.
I mean, if we go by Josh's rule at looking how his children turned out, the ones that are still alive, they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not happy, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if the bar is, you know, raising kids who, you know, live long, happy lives, like, 2 of his sons live to be well into their hundreds. So, like, by that count, I think Percival Dumbledore wins best dad. Just in terms of, you know, keeping his children alive.
But not being there.
Well, I mean, yes. James kept his son alive without making it himself.
Okay, James's son died, like, twice before turning 18. So...
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's always hard to tell because the 2 Dumbledore brothers are quite different. But they do both seem to have good beliefs and values installed in them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess he's not the worst dad, Percival.
Yeah.
And he gave his name to his firstborn child. Which I'm always surprised when people are like, oh, so my first child has 4 first names, and then I'm like, and you planning to have more kids, and what are you going to do? Are you not going to inevitably run out of family relationship names? Like,
yeah, I mean, that was Harry's mistake. Like, he, used up James and Sirius on the first one, and then, what was left? Albus.
And apparently Severus, so...
Ugh.
So stupid.
Yeah. Right, again, like, Harry has such a collection of father figures, like, all of whom died. Like, really? Severus? Like, I mean, it would make more sense to be Albus Vernon Potter.
He could have just done the Vernon Dudley thing. Like, here's a name I came up with once before.
Vernon Dudley Potter, you are named after 2 people.
Reinhold Walsley and Potter.
That sounds a good one.
Well, them's the good dads, so let's get back to a terrible, terrible one.
Thank you, Irvin.
Zeno Lovegood. I hate this guy. I hate him so much. He's the worst.
Is that just because you think he's annoying?
No, I think it's because he's a terrible person who tried to sell out the Wizard Messiah for no good reason.
Well, no good
to get
reason.
his daughter back.
Yeah.
No! He would not have gotten his daughter back.
But he didn't know
that. makes no sense.
He had to
We
try.
do know that.
Well,
no, he didn't.
He had to try. Like, if he
No, he
lost,
didn't.
He already lost his wife. He has his daughter now, and now he's missing her. He will obviously do everything he can to make sure she gets back to him in one piece.
Yeah, and you know what the best thing for that would be? Supporting Harry Potter to take down Voldemort. That is by far his best strategy.
There is reasonable expectation to be made that if he gave them Harry, Ron, and Hermione, that he would get Luna back.
I think he wants to do whatever he can, even if it's wrong to get Luna back, but he's disregarding her beliefs and what she values.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Also, it's not like he makes the bargain, okay? Like, I would have more sympathy if there was, like, an explicit bargain of, like, if I hand over Harry Potter, do I get Luna back? No. He literally calls the Death Eaters, be like, I have Harry Potter here, and then plans to negotiate after the fact, like, hoping they'll be grateful.
Yep.
Like, either he's too stupid to live, or he's just a dick.
I think he's very desperate, and he tries anything he can. Harry Potter just is, showing up at his doorstep, and this is not an opportunity that at that point in time in his life he can, waste, because he knows Luna's captured, and he can't help her any other way, so he's desperate.
But this also isn't helping.
Well, but he has to try. Not everything can work out as to plan.
His best hope to get Luna back in one piece is to help Harry.
I don't think we can truly understand how the outsiders who don't know what Harry's plan is to defeating Voldemort can understand how much of a chance Harry has to win.
But he was literally writing articles about how Harry Potter is the best hope we have. So he's just a hypocrite.
No, he's a father in disarray.
Yeah.
And panic.
And a hypocrite.
I think almost everyone who's in a situation where,
I would sell my entire family to get my kids
But
back.
it's not actually getting your kids back.
But
I think in his head he thinks that, or he really truly believes.
Yes.
Well, then he's just stupid.
Well, I mean, Irvin, that's fine, but that's not a good way to have a discussion about it.
I think it's a great way. I'm a Ravenclaw. I don't like stupid people.
Yeah, but I mean, on the debate of is he a good dad, I don't think how intelligent he is really factoring into them.
Yeah.
Well, as a dad, he clearly has no respect for Luna's values or the people she cares about, so
You're right.
Yeah, not a good dad.
I would like to see examples of that.
Well,
Okay, he undermines the cause that Luna is risking her life for and sends Luna's friends into the Death Eater's hands for essentially nothing.
That I can 100% get behind. That makes him a bad father.
Good.
I'm still not convinced. Because I still think that he is only pretending to do that. Like, he's literally so desperate that he's like, if I have to change what I print, and if that is something that means at least that Luna gets back in one piece, I will have to do it, even if that portrays what I truly feel.
And listen, I think I'm a great dad. I would be a terrible dad right now, because I would do exactly what Zeno did.
Anything else for Zeno?
He reminds me of like kind of one of those weird cult leaders that has like strange beliefs they pass on to their kids, and then later on, the kid realizes, oh, that was complete bull. Like some of it, like Luna believing the crumpled horn Snorlax, like obviously she was wrong. But later on, Joe say that she got out of, like she realized some of her dad's point of views weren't entirely right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think she might have kept believing in the Crumplehorn Snorlax, but, like, she realized some of his, like, you know, stranger flights of fantasy weren't actually real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, most children are influenced by what their parents believe. And you can either, you know, continue to believe that or start to form your own opinions, and they may, even after that, still align with what your parents raised you to begin with, or they may be the complete opposite, but they are the first influence on your life, typically, unless you are orphaned. So, of course, they pass on their shared beliefs and values onto you.
I mean, at least Zeno is trying to teach Luna to have an open mind about things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, regardless, like, the Snorlax is a really good example of, yeah, maybe it's dumb to believe that the Snorlax exists, but the reason that they think it exists isn't a terrible reason of like, hey, fine, prove to me that it's not real.
Question.
You know, like there's some of that I can get behind. But but Luna has to be open to it. Like if he's just shoving it down her throat and she's just like not into it and not like of that mindset, then that makes a poor parent.
Yeah.
But if she's open to it, like Luna's weird. And I think that she would be weird kind of no matter what.
Yeah.
I also think when we meet Luna, she parrots her father's beliefs a lot more than the other characters because she's been so lonely.
Yes.
You know, other people are going to change from, you know, what their parents molded when they, like, hang out with friends and other people. But because Luna's been so isolated, it's just been her and her dad for so many years. I think it's not surprising that when we meet her, she's just like, well, but my dad says this, so, like, end of story.
Yeah. I do think another thing I would credit Xeno for is Luna, despite being, you know, a little bit of an oddball, she is so, you know, she knows who she is and she, like, has no self-doubt. And that is something amazing, and especially in a teenager who, you know, typically those are the people who are, like, the most in self-doubt because of all the influences from everywhere, you know, pushing against them of, you know, maybe not so much in the wizarding world, but like very much in our world of like, you need to look like this because Instagram tells you, or, you know, you need to be this type of person because this TV show tells you, or whatever that is. So I think Luna showing up at Hogwarts and, you know, even by that point, it's her 4th year being like, yeah, other people think I'm weird, but I'm completely fine with who I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and Luna's attitude towards the death of her mother is very, very healthy. And I know, like, it can be hard to, like, you know, guide a kid through that, especially when you're grieving yourself.
Yeah.
So, like, in that regard, good work was done.
So, I still think he's a pretty solid dad.
The worst.
Solid dad who made a bad choice on emotions.
Yeah.
All right, and then we get to the best dad, the sort of undisputed rock star, Arthur Weasley.
Who's that? Yeah.
Hashtag dad goals.
He is certainly not fertile.
I mean, he is that.
I guess Molly would be the fertile one. I don't know. He's a hell of a seed sower.
Yes, he has very strong swimmers.
Is that the best we can come up with for him?
I mean, we could keep trying to find a better phrase for it. I'm happy to try. But yeah, I think he does a great job with all his kids, and I think, when there's that many kids, I imagine it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to keep up with. It's a lot to, make sure everyone feels included and all that. But, he definitely seems to be supportive and understanding for his kids. He definitely imparts his values. We've been talking a lot about that. So I'm just remembering in Goblet of Fire when the twins give Dudley the Tongue Toffee. And afterwards, he's, so mad at them for, bullying a muggle. And he's like, how dare you think we'd bully a muggle?
Yeah.
So sort of, that message has been received loud and clear.
Yeah. I still think that he's the one who buys the comics. And what's he called?
Martin Miggs.
Yeah, I was going to say something with an M, but yeah, Martin Miggs. I also, I'm not saying that Molly isn't, but I think out of the two of them, Arthur is the more approachable to his children.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Because I think with Molly, there's always the chance of she'll lose her mind. She'll be like, how dare you do something? And versus they can talk to Arthur and be like, so this is the situation, this is what I've done, I know it's not great, but now I need your advice. And he'd be like, okay, I'm actually going to listen to you and actually trying to help you.
Agreed.
Which, I feel like, with a lot of parenting couples, you sort of, want a good cop and a bad cop. And so he seems very comfortable being the good cop.
Yeah. Although it's very similar to how my parents work, and my mom would then occasionally just snap at my dad for always having to be the bad cop. And then we'd be like, okay, bye, you two sort this out.
Yeah, but sort of even the fact that, Harry is willing to go to him.
Yes, I was about to say that.
Yeah, with, his suspicions about the Malfoys and Half-Blood and all that. Harry doesn't do that. Harry doesn't open up to people or trust them. So, the fact that he went to Arthur instead of, writing to Lupin, instead of, going to anyone else, I think says a lot about how he views Arthur.
Arthur treats him like an adult.
Yes.
Yeah, I do think that's part of his appeal. That, he takes them seriously. He doesn't dismiss them outright for being like, you don't know this, you're just, 12 or whatever. And I wasn't sure, but I think, do we ever see him lose his temper? Ever? Is that happening?
The Tongue Toffee is, I think, the closest we come.
We hear, don't we hear of him losing his temper with Percy? It's secondhand information,
yes,
but
that's true.
I think that we hear about him, maybe not yelling, but I don't know. Something sticking in my brain about we see, or we're told about Arthur being overcome.
Yeah. Wait, there's one more. When Fred tried to make the unbreakable vow with Ron as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Ron says, he went mental. Only time I've ever seen Dad as angry as Mom. Fred reckons his left buttock has never been the same since.
Yeah. But then I guess it's, when it is appropriate. At least. It does take a lot for him to lose his temper, but then it's not, for silly little stuff. It is actually quite severe stuff.
Yeah, I think he has a very long fuse, but, you don't want to get to the end of it.
Yeah. When he's angry, you definitely messed up.
Yeah, and I think he's really good at sort of threading the needle of treating people like adults versus kids. I'm thinking of Order of the Phoenix, when Harry shows up at Grimmauld Place, and they're like, all right, so information. And Molly's like, no one, under the age of 35 gets to hear anything.
Yeah.
And Arthur's like, okay, maybe Harry, needs to know something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, everybody out. She's like, so Fred and George are adults. She's like, Ron and Hermione out. And she's like, so Harry probably will tell them. I think he has a good read on their dynamics and on sort of what they need to know in the moment.
Yeah, the way that I view that, and I keep coming back to this, but it is literally the philosophy that I'm raising my kids with, is I think that Arthur is aware of the situation in the world right now, and he is there to raise adults. Molly is there to raise children. Mm-hmm. And I think that will tell, that tells a lot of how they approach, specifically the things with the order of, Fred and George are 17 at this point, and so Arthur's like, Molly, they're adults. They can be here. They're allowed to know what's going on.
And he treats her like an adult, but not in the way Sirius does.
Yeah.
In book 5.
Sirius wants a friend.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Sirius wants an adult friend in a 15-year-old. Arthur wants to see the adult of that 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And prepare them. Like, my goal for my kids is that when they are 18 years old is that they are adults.
I mean, okay, that's a lofty goal. Like, 18 is very young.
No, it's very young in the culture that we live in today.
Yeah. So, anyone have anything to say against Arthur? Like, I'm curious. Like, not that anyone would dare, but...
Yeah, I don't know if he handled Percy. The thing, we don't really know how he handled Percy. How did he approach Percy about, hey, we think that you're being used. We think that the ministry is using you to find things out about the family. I think Percy has a lot. Percy holds a lot of the blame, and probably a solid 80% of the blame for that. But depending on how Arthur approached him about that could be good or bad parenting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there would have been a good way for that. I think sort of Percy didn't want to hear it. But yeah.
Yeah, didn't want to believe it. Thought his dad was jealous of his success.
He does fight Lucius Malfoy in the bookstore in front of his kids. That's not a great look.
Yeah, although I think, like, the kids' reactions are very telling, where, like, Fred and George are like, yeah, go Dad!
Yeah.
So, like...
I think it, for me at least, it just makes him much more like a real person, that he has flaws, and that he's not always 100% perfect.
Yeah.
But he's, he's very, very close to perfect a lot of the times.
Yes. I think he's sort of as close as you can get without being, like, annoying and unbelievable.
Yeah. And he ends up being Harry's father-in-law.
Yeah. The one who lived.
Yeah. The one who tried stitches.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of another bad part. Like another bad scene from Arthur.
I mean, maybe he could have worked harder to get promotions earlier on so his family wasn't in debt most of the time, but he's doing what he loves.
Yeah, it all depends on what's the better influence on your family. Yeah. Doing something that you love and showing them that money is not the most important thing, or making it more comfortable. I
agree.
I don't think either one of those is really the right answer either. I mean, I think that there's a lot to be said for both.
I also find it hard to understand finances if you have magic for a lot of, stuff that takes a lot of time and money in our world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also, like, he makes enough money that, like, the family's, like, fine.
Yeah.
It's not like he's, like, not working or working for pennies or anything. Like, there is food on the table, like, all the
creditors are not knocking the door down.
Yeah, like, all the kids have their own room, like, all the kids, have books and robes and all that, even if a lot of it's secondhand. Like, so he makes enough to support his family, just not enough to, like, have them, like, well off financially. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that he does take the promotion when it's offered, even though, like, sort of he clearly doesn't want it, I think, like, yeah, power to him. Actually, I'm curious, why do you think he did take the promotion? Because sort of by that point, like, most of the kids were grown, so sort of, you'd think the end is in sight, and the costs would decrease. Maybe
he wanted to change, just to see the other side of stuff.
It could also be the argument made that it's more useful to the order if he's in a different place.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, also, I guess weddings are expensive, so...
I can see Molly really being like, take this position. Do what you want, but I'm kind of pointing that direction.
Yeah, sort of like, we did it your way for 20 years, like maybe now we need some cash.
Now that our house is on fire.
It's like, now that we've raised all of these children, they're all wanting to marry someone, so it's really lucky that Wizarding University doesn't exist.
Yeah. Although the Wizarding Academy of Dramatic Arts does, and I imagine tuition is not cheap.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's about all the fathers we have in the series.
A toast to all the fathers.
A toast to all the fathers. Do you guys have anything like that stood out to you sort of like as a pattern or like, anything we can say about like the fathers as a whole?
I think we can all agree none of them are perfect. A lot of them are
Yes.
trying to be there for the children. Some of them are not.
Yeah.
I think for the most part we see. I do believe that all. I want to say all of them as I go back through the list, other than Marvolo. All of them are doing what they think is best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not actively trying to hurt their kids.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is a low bar.
Well,
I actually, I kind of want to go back to the essay I mentioned, how Goblet of Fire is such a turning point for dads in the series. Because I feel like the first half of the series is Harry, like, amassing his found family. It's him, like, getting to know people. It's him, like, building a relationship with Sirius, with Lupin, with Arthur, with Dumbledore. And then Goblet of Fire, which is the midpoint, suddenly, like, all the fathers, like, not just Harry's father figures, but all of them find themselves kind of powerless in various ways. For, like, Arthur and Vernon, it's, like, a smaller thing. Like, Vernon, is forced to eat rabbit food with his son because, Dudley's being forced on a diet. And then Arthur and the whole Tongue Toffee episode. But also, like, there's Crouch Sr. losing, like, literal control over his son. Like, Lucius Malfoy, especially. Because, like, Draco's always had a really easy time of it at Hogwarts because Lucius was so influential. Right, like, he used to be on the Board of Governors, and then even in Prisoner of Azkaban, like, the threat of Lucius Malfoy and the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures, like, Lucius can still exert a lot of influence. Whereas in Goblet of Fire, like, Draco is humiliated by Moody, turned into a ferret and everything, and, like, Lucius can't do anything about it. Like, Moody won't be intimidated by him. Even Sirius Black, even if, he's not a biological father, if we're looking at him as a father of Harry, like, he's being a good father to Harry, but he still, like, can't really help much. Like, he can't protect Harry from the Triwizard Tournament. He, like, can't even really help Harry much through the tournament, even though he tries. And then, of course, there's, the deadly aspect of it where, like, Amos Diggory, like, literally loses his son. I wonder if, like, y'all thought there was, like, what's sort of behind this theme? Like, I guess I always thought it was because Goblet of Fire needs to be a turning point from, like, it as a kid's series to it as a, like, young adult series. And, like, in a kid's series, like, you have adults who can help save the day and, like, fix things, and sort of, like, the issue is, like, getting to the adults, communicating to the adults, getting them to believe you, and so forth. And then in Goblet of Fire, suddenly, like, like, the adults can't help you. Like, suddenly, like, the kids have to fight for themselves. Okay, then.
I was trying really hard to think of something, but I think your summary is just really strong, so.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and also talk of Sirius, which reminds me, like, do we want to talk about sort of the, like, not biological father figures in the series?
I mean, non-biological father. I mean,
it's just Sirius and Dumbledore,
right? And
Hagrid's
Dumbledore.
Oh no, Hagrid's a mother figure.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Y'all covered that on the Mother's Day episode. Y'all did very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking, honestly, like, Sirius and Dumbledore at this point. Because, yeah, Sam, like you mentioned, I think Sirius is a really great father in Goblet of Fire.
Oh,
like,
yes.
it's so tantalizing because, like, we get so close to Harry having, like, a great dad, but, like,
And then book
you know,
5 happens. You're like, what
Yeah.
happened?
I mean, fantasy genre,
Yeah.
all that.
Dumbledore and Sirius both give off like, my parents are divorced and I live most of the time with my mom, and so when Dad comes around, it's like weird, but Sirius is trying to be really fun and give advice. Like, that's the vibes I get from Sirius. Dumbledore, he just seems standoffish.
Yeah, honestly, I never quite thought of Dumbledore as strictly a father figure.
I don't at all.
Yeah.
Like, I lump him in as, like, parentalish figures, but, like, he's too remote from Harry for most of it to really be a father figure. I'm curious, do you think Sirius would have made a good father? Sort of, minus the Azkaban, minus the house arrest, like, minus all of that.
Sirius doesn't strike me as the type of person to A, settle down with someone, and B, start a family.
True. Very true.
I think he would be a good uncle, but maybe not a good father. Uncle / godfather.
Oh, he'd be a fantastic uncle.
Yeah.
I mean, we even see that in the note, right? When he's like, bringing like Harry his toy broomsticks, and Lil's like, oh my god, we had to lock everything away. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I think if Sirius had settled down, I think he would have done a decent job as a dad. I think, kind of like James, he would have been very indulgent, but he also, like, would have been a very caring person, because like he's totally there for Harry. Like when Harry needs him in Goblet of Fire, like he sort of drops everything and does everything he can for the kid. And we also know he has very strong like anti-dark magic values that he would definitely impart.
I think James would be mature. Where if Harry ever were to bully someone, James would try and shut that down. Where Sirius would kind of be like, "You got that, kid. Good job." Yeah.
But I think Sirius is also surprisingly good at, like, explaining nuance to kids. Like, he's the one who, like, finally breaks it down for Harry. It's like, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. Or if you want to see what a man's like, look how he treats his inferiors, not his equals. Like, I think sort of, that type of wisdom, I think Sirius would be really, really good at that thing. Well, because he is. We see him.
Wisdom he doesn't follow.
I mean, it's always easier to,
like
dole out advice than take it.
What is that saying? Like, one finger pointed and 3 fingers back pointing at you?
I hadn't heard that, but I like it. Dumbledore, I struggle so hard to imagine him as a dad that, like, it's sort of... Yeah.
Again, I think the Dumbledore that we meet would never settle down and start a family. So it's like almost an alternative version of Dumbledore that isn't burned by Grindelwald.
Irvin, do you think that Harry wants Dumbledore to be more of a father figure? Like, we know that Harry wants more information, but Harry certainly sees Sirius as a father.
I don't think so.
But I don't think Harry ever looks at Dumbledore and thinks father figure.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, that's quite late in the series, but in book 6 in Half-Blood Prince, when they are spending much more time with each other, Harry's like, this is like weird. Like, how does this work? I'm not used to this. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what he wants out of Dumbledore is sort of like, a mentor. But I don't think he sort of ever really, sought that like father figure, like closeness and familiarity.
Yeah. Although I have read that fan fiction and it's really good.
Well, sure. All right. Well, to sum up, I think it's time to talk about the 7 ingredients in today's special at the pub. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There is a set of 7 to be found among the fathers, as in father-ish figures that Harry has, as in adult men who have some kind of parental role in his life. Because, yeah, father figure is too limiting. But by that account, we see these 7 guys who are kind of, sort of, in some way fatherish to Harry. So we have James Potter, we have Vernon Dursley, we have Rubeus Hagrid, Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, Arthur Weasley, and Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. And let me tell you, I do not like the life expectancy of those people.
Hagrid lived.
Alas. Vernon lived.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know.
And Arthur.
For all we know, you know, lived to be, 120. Long, happy life with, Dudley and Marge's dogs. So yeah, and that's the fathers in the Potter series.
Hey, Irvin, what's playing on the pub's jukebox today?
I'm so glad you asked. I mean, if we're talking about fathers, there can be only one Wizard Rock song that comes to mind, which is the iconic, the legendary Draco and the Malfoys' My Dad is Rich.
Your dad's on his journey to the great beyond. When you're dueling, you might see him come out of someone else's wand. You may have freed our house elf or brought down to our family name, but your parents still got toasted by a big green glowing flame. My dad is rich and your dad is dead. My dad is rich and your dad is dead.
If you've never been at a Wizard Rock concert and never heard people screaming in each other's faces, my dad is rich, your dad is dead, my dad is rich and your dad is dead, it is a glorious experience. Now, I'm not sure we can actually play any of this song on the podcast, because we might need to bleep this out, but Swish and Flick did a cover of My Dad is Rich for a Draco and Malfoy's tribute album called My Dad is Rich on a Boat, which is not suitable for work. Yeah. Hey, Patrick, if you can find any lyrics in that song that don't need to be bleeped out, I will be so impressed. But again, if you've never been at a concert and heard people screaming "My dad is rich" at each other with many expletives thrown in, it is also a glorious experience.
Your dad's on his journey to the great beyond. When you're dueling, you might see him come out someone else's wand. You may have freed our house elf, brought down to a family name, but your parents still got toasted by a big green glowing light. On my nimbus, doing flips and you falling off your firebolt dementors on you. They try to kiss you, cause you a stupid kid. My dad is rich, motherfucker, don't you ever forget. My dad is rich and your dad is dead, and I got your weapon right here, power of love. And I love my mom, I love my dad too. We all love Lord Voldemort and we all hate you.
I need to experience this.
Oh, it's great. Also, one of my favorite things. So, Stacy, who is Swish and Flick, she DJ'd my 18th birthday party where we had, like, the upstairs room in a restaurant, but, like, the downstairs room, everyone was still, like, partying it up, and there was no, like, closed door or sound barrier or anything. And so, because we all loved this song, Stacy played it, and so we are all in this restaurant, 18 years old, screaming, like... everybody look at me because I'm motherfucking rich. And oh, those poor other patrons who'd wanted a nice Saturday night dinner. It just, yeah, we were a menace.
I can imagine. No surprised faces.
Really? I thought you would all be shocked.
Yeah, so shocked. So it's my great pleasure to thank both of you for visiting the Three Broomsticks today, Sam and Josh. It's been absolutely pleasure to have you today.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thank you.
I'm not sure if either one of you has anything that you want to plug or any social media you want to share. It's not mandatory, so it's up if you want to.
I have no social media at all, and I will keep it that way.
I was going to say, I don't change that now.
I have nothing Harry Potter related, but I just have my Instagram, which is just my name, Sam Ommen.
Okay.
All right. We'll point people there. And Sam, again, thanks so much for buying us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks.
You're very welcome.
It's a huge help. Listeners, if you'd like to buy us the next round, please head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the number 3 to sign up. We're offering bonus content. You can chat with the hosts. You can get on-episode shout-outs. We're chatting about Hogwarts Legacy, about, like, all manner of things, Harry Potter. There's a lot of, administrative expenses with running a podcast. There's, we gotta pay for a website, we gotta pay hosting fees and all that. So we'd really appreciate your help in supporting us so we can talk about Harry Potter for a long time to come. And also, if you like our show, please tell your friends, tell your acquaintances, tell that one guy you meet in the cafe. Like, word of mouth is a huge help to us, and we always love to hear it. If you could rate and review us on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, we'd really appreciate that too.
And unlike Josh, you can find us on social media, and because our handles are a mess, we will link to them from the show notes, and we will also link to them, or we're linking to them from our website, and our website is 3broomstickspod.com with the word 3 spelled out. There you will find the links to the essays Irvin has mentioned. You can chat with us. You can let us know your thoughts. Like, honestly, the comments on the episode posts have been really, really, really strong. You guys are all very, very geniuses. So...
Yeah, tell us who you think is the best non-Arthur Weasley dad and who the worst one is in the series. I'm curious to get a sample of our listenership for the poll.
Oh, yes.
Go Delacour!
You can also submit a topic and see all the other things we link to, listen to the song that Irvin picked for today's episode. And you can also email us at 3broomstickspod@gmail.com, and this time it's the number 3.
And talk of the number 3, next time we meet at the Three Broomsticks, we are continuing our series on the chapters 3 of Harry Potter, where we're going to be discussing Goblet of Fire Chapter 3, The Invitation. So actually, that bit that we talked about today with Arthur and Vernon and Dudley and the Toffees, we're going to dive all the way deep into it next time. And with that, I've been Irvin.
I'm Aureo. Thank you for listening. See you next time in the Three Broomsticks. Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round from my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
Yay! We did it! We did the thing! And in only 2.5 hours.
That's pretty good.
Well done, us.